Hello and namaste to all of you. This is Javen Shalu Singh from Department of Physiotherapy and Diagnostics from Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. In last lecture, I told you about CSF. Where is it available in your brain and how is it produced? Where is it produced? Now, for today's section, I'll be talking. For today's topic, we'll be discussing about the significance of a CSF. For the topics, we have already learned about what is CSF and where is it present and how is it produced. So, clinical significance of CSF is that firstly, pressure. So, CSF pressure is measured by lumbar puncture is 10 to 18 centimeters of water. Now, 8 to 15 mmHg or 1.1 to 2 kilopascals. So, within the patient lying on the side and 20 to 30 centimeters water. So, 16 to 24 mmHg or 2.1 to 3.2 kilopascals within the patient setting up. And in newborns, CSF pressure ranges from 8 to 10 centimeters of water, 4.4 to 7.3 mmHg or 0.78 to 0.98 kilopascals. Most variations are due to cuffing or internal compression of jugular veins in the neck, and when lying down, CSF pressure is estimated by lumbar puncture and is estimated to the intracranial pressure. And hydrocephalus is an abnormal accumulation of CSF in the ventricles of the brain, and hydrocephalus can occur because of the obstruction to the passage of CSF because from an infection, injury, mass, or congestional abnormality. Hydrocephalus without obstruction association with normal CSF pressure may also occur, and symptoms can include problems with gait and coordination, urinary incontinence, nausea and vomiting, and progressively impaired cognition. And in infants, basically in infants, so uh, in hydrocephalus, it can cause an enlarged head, and as bones of skull, they have not yet fused. Seizures, irritability, and drowsiness may be seen, and a CT scan or MRI may reveal enlargement of one or both lateral ventricles or causative masses or lesions, and lumbar puncture may be used to demonstrate, in some circumstances, relieve high intracranial pressure. Hydrocephalus is usually treated through the insertion of a shunt, such as ventrioperitoneal shunt, which diverts fluid to another part to the body. And idiopathic intracranial hypertension is a condition unknown and causes characterized by a rise in CSF pressure. So it is associated with headaches, double vision, difficulties, seeing, and in swollen optic disc, and it can occur in association with the use of vitamin A and tetracycline antibiotics or without any identifiable causes at all. And particularly in young obese women, management may include seizing any known causes are carbonic anhydrase inhibitors such as acetazolamide, repeated drainage via lumbar puncture, or the insertion of a shunt such as ventriculoperitoneal shunt. Now, CSF leak can form the dura as a result of a different cause, such as physical trauma or a lumbar puncture, or from no known cause when it is termed as spontaneous cerebrospinal fluid leak. So, it is usually associated with intracranial hypertension, low CSF pressure, and it can cause headaches made worse by standing and moving and coughing, and as low CSF pressure causes the brain to sag downwards. Now, it is usually associated with intracranial hypertension, low CSF pressure. So it can cause headaches made worse by standing, moving, and coughing. As the low CSF pressure causes the brain to sag downwards and put pressure on its lower structure. So if a leak is identified, a beta 2 transparent test of the leaking fluid, when positive, is highly specific and sensitive for the detection of CSF leak. And medical imaging, such as CT scans and MRI scans, can be used to investigate for a presumed CSF leak when no obvious leak is found but low CSF pressure is identified. Now, caffeine given either orally or intravenously often offers symptomatic relief. Treatment of an identified leak may include injection of a person's blood into epidural space or epidural blood patch, or spinal surgery or fibrin glue. So, lumbar puncture. So, CSF can be tested for the diagnosis of a variety of neurological diseases, usually obtained by a procedure called lumbar puncture. So, lumbar puncture is carried out under the sterile conditions by inserting a needle into subarachnoid space, usually between third and fourth lumbar vertebrae, and CSF is extracted through the needle and tested. So, about one third of people experience a headache after lumbar puncture, and the pain or discomfort at the needle entry is common. So, rarer complications may include bruising, meningitis, or ongoing post lumbar puncture leakage of CSF. Now, testing often includes observing the color of the fluid, measuring CSF pressure, counting and identifying white and red blood cells within within the fluid, and measuring protein glucose levels and culturing the fluid. So the presence of red blood cells and xanthochromia may include subarachnoid hemorrhage, and whereas central nervous system infections such as meningitis may be indicated by elevated white blood cell levels. So a CSF culture may yield the microorganisms that has caused the infection, or a PCR may be used to identify a viral cause. So the investigations to total types and nature of proteins reveal the point to specific disease, including multiple sclerosis, paraneoplastic syndromes, and systemic lupus erythematosus. Now, neurosarcoidosis and cerebral and titus is very also common, and specific antibodies such as aquaporin 4, they may be tested for assist in diagnosis of autoimmune conditions. So a lumbar puncture that drains CSF may be used as a part of treatment for some conditions, including idiopathic intracranial hypertension and normal pressure hydrocephalus. Now, lumbar puncture can also be performed to measure the intracranial pressure, which might be increased in certain types of hydrocephalus. And however, a lumbar puncture should never be performed if increased intracranial pressure is suspected due to certain situations, such as tumor, because it can lead to fatal brain marinations. Now, anesthesia and chemotherapy. Some anesthetics and chemotherapy are injected and intrathecally into subarachnoid space where the spread around CSF, meaning substances that cannot cross the blood-brain barrier, can still be active throughout the central nervous system. So, pericity refers to the density of a substance compared to the density of a human cerebrospinal fluid, and is used in regional anesthesia to determine the manner in which particular drug will spread in intrathecal space. So now in this case, that various CSF biomarkers are firstly in cases of Alzheimer's disease. So in Alzheimer's disease, a total CSF beta amyloid is not significantly different from the contents from the controls, but beta amyloid is decreased probably because it is deposited in plaques and is not available in a diffusible form. So total tau, that is T tau, and phosphorylated tau, which is P tau, these are both increased in your Alzheimer's disease. So tau is an intracellular protein, and P tau is a component of neurofibrillary tangles. So their increase in Alzheimer's disease is thought to reflect neuronal death with the release of tau into intracellular space. So T tau is also increased in other conditions with neuronal death, including Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease. However, p-tau is not elevated in your CJD, that is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and presumably because are no MFTs in that condition. Now, what is a Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease? So, in addition to elevated t-tau, the most widely used CSF marker for Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is a 1433 protein. So the 1433 protein, so the it name derives basically 1433. It derives basically the electrophoresis pattern. These are a group of proteins with diverse regulatory functions present in all cells, and the elevated CSF 1433 in patient progress with progressive dementia of less than 2 years duration is considered a strong indicator of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Now 14-3-3, which is 1433, is also elevated in patients with acute stroke, encephalitis, and other conditions with extensive brain damage. So a negative 1433 test done not rule out Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and it has been reported recently that CSF transferrin is significantly decreased in sporadic CJD, and combined with t-tau may be helpful biomarker for CJD. So S100B is a member of S100 family of proteins, and it is produced primarily by astrocytes, and it exerts autocrine and paracrine effects on glia neurons and microglia, and is thought to be involved in a variety of biological processes. So S100B is elevated in CSF and blood and in acute brain injury and caused by trauma and strokes, and in concentration correlates the severity of injury and clinical outcomes. And these clinical settings, S100B, it probably leaks from the injured cells, but it may also be actively secreted as a part of your cellular response to injury, and is thought to exert neuroprotective, trophic, and toxic actions. So CSF and CNS abnormalities. So blood and CSF S100B is elevated in melanoma. So S100B is made by tumor cells, and in brain tumors has been regarded as a predictor of brain metastasis, and it is also elevated in neurodegenerative disorders such as Alzheimer's disease and frontotemporal lobe degeneration, and in neuroinflammatory disorders such as your MS. So, CSF and intracranial hypertension are related to the rigid skull contained in the brain and intravascular blood and CSF. So when a volume of one of these components increases, the other two adjust to the change in a point up to a point. So when intracranial pressure exceeds cerebral perfusion pressure, so the cerebral blood vessels are squeezed and shut, and cerebral ischemia ensues. So such a situation occurs as a result of brain tumors and arises also following large ischemic strokes. So traumatic brain injury and cerebral subarachnoid hemorrhage and elevation of intracranial pressure may also result from increased in CSF volumes such as hydrocephalus, and most cases of hydrocephalus are caused by obstruction of CSF flow most frequently from brain tumors and aqueductal lesions, and non-obstructive hydrocephalus may be caused by decreased CSF absorption, so such as synovenous thrombosis, and conditions caused marked elevation of CSF protein, so such as Guillain-Barré syndrome, and rarely by CSF oversecretion by choroid plexus tumors. So elevated intracranial pressure with no other apparent pathology is also thought to be cause of pseudotumor cerebri, idiopathic intracranial hypertension, and this condition is characterized by headache, papilledema, an increase in CSF pressure, and normal sized ventricles. So obesity is a major risk factor, and acetazolamide, an inhibitor of carbonic anhydrase, frequently used for the treatment of pseudotumor cerebri. Now, these were the contents for your contents and the biomarkers for your CSF. So, for further, I'll be talking in next section. Until then, if you have any issues, you can and any queries, you can contact me. And until then, take care. Goodbye.